So it is inevitable. Guitar shops, the way we know them today, the physical guitar shops, are going to be a thing of the past, and I'm going to tell you why. Hi everyone, welcome back to the Ministry of Guitar. I'm coming to you from Singapore. My name is Utkarsh Mohan. For those of you who are regular viewers, apologies for the long gap. I had a little bit of a trip, boys' trip, and a wedding of a good friend of mine. Had gone to Phuket in Thailand, so apologies for the little bit of a gap. Regular programming will be resumed. And for those of you who like what I'm doing, please do like, subscribe, and share. As I always say, it just helps the algorithm. So today is a video that the topic of this video, or rather the specific themes of this video, have been on my mind for a while. But a couple of things have happened over the last 2 weeks that gave me some more information and some more food for thought to come to a conclusion about this point. The first thing that has happened is something that a lot of you know about, which is the closing down of Sam Ash in the US, old musical retailer. I think a lot of us know this. Pretty sad, but it's closing down. The second thing is my visit to and the opening of a very fancy guitar shop here in Singapore. It's along Singapore River, which is one of the prime areas, a lot of tourists, and it's by Swee Lee, which is one of Singapore's oldest musical retailers. And visiting that particular location and examining it, together with what's happening with Sam Ash, has led me to finally crystallize some of my thoughts on this. Now, to be clear, I believe the physical guitar store, as we know it today, where you go try out guitars, have a good time, and then perhaps buy one, perhaps not buy one, that particular model of guitar stores is probably on its last legs. And I don't think it has got anything to do with the amount of people playing guitar. So it's not like guitar stores will die because not enough people are playing guitar. I've talked about how the number of people playing guitar is fairly healthy. Instead, I think the physical guitar store is doomed to die for a multitude of other factors. So I want to talk about these factors. The first thing is, think about how the guitarists, me and you, how our interaction with the guitar world, no pun intended, has changed completely in the pre-internet and the post-internet age. So pre-internet, your interaction with guitars was your own guitar if you were lucky enough to have one, the guitar store where you got to go and see the guitars, and maybe the occasional guitar magazine that you may browse through in the newsstand, or you perhaps buy, like Guitar World or whatever else it might be. That was then. So the guitar store was an integral part of your guitar ecosystem. It's where you went and saw them, felt them, so on and so forth. Today what has happened is that, what's your guitar ecosystem? It's of course the guitars in your house, or guitar in your house, but it is a lot of other things. It is Instagram, it is TikTok, it is YouTube. You have these multitude of visual mediums and audio mediums that are providing you with your guitar necessities, so to speak. Consequently, even if you look at guitar design, or you look at the way the kind of guitars are getting popular, it's become a lot more visual. Through the powers of technology and great processing and everything, most guitars sound inevitably similar. I know about the Tonewood debates. I have pitched in on them as well. But guitars have become a much more visual thing. If you talk to someone like Paul Reed Smith, he'll say that a piece of wood that was considered extremely figured back in the 80s is now just considered normal because people want flamier tops, quiltier tops. Everything has become about how it looks. If you look at how PRS Private Stock, or forget PRS, cheaper guitars, it's all about the visuals. People making these exotic builds using resin. It's become very, very visual. And it's no surprise because people are primarily interacting with guitars beyond their own playing. They're watching it, they're watching more and more of it. The other thing that has happened together with the guitar medium becoming a lot more visual due to the changes of the internet is that guitars are becoming much, much, much more consistent across price points. So there was a time when only expensive guitars were consistent, and they were also not that consistent. Gibson was never that consistent. But today, you can get LTDs, PRS SEs, Some Ibanez's, I have to say some because I have found some very inconsistent. Cheaper brands, Sire can be quite decent as well. Cortec. These are cheaper guitars, affordable guitars that are very, very consistent, which make it much easier for one to buy a guitar without having to ever pick it up before, because you can get all the visuals that you want either on the internet or on the e-commerce websites, and you can have a certain guarantee of consistency even at a lower price point. Thirdly, the entire interaction between people in general, forget about guitarists. We have, due to the internet, due to social media, kind of crawled back into our own immediate spaces. There was a time where if you wanted to watch a bunch of great guitarists or see some great guitar playing, you had to literally go down to the live scene. Maybe there was something in your town, maybe you had to go somewhere outside. Today, due to YouTube, due to everything else, all the performers are right in front of you. And due to the nature of social media, you have become the person more likely, compared to say 20 years ago, compared to 30 years ago, who will spend time watching stuff on a screen versus experiencing it outside. This is all of us. This is nothing to do with guitarists. This is humanity in general. All of these things make the need of a physical guitar shape to see the guitar unnecessary. You can see them pretty well. To interact with other guitarists, now you have the internet. To confirm the quality of the guitar, average quality of guitars, even at cheaper prices, has gone up. So that makes the role of the guitar store more and more difficult. Rather, more and more less necessary than previously in the pre-internet era. That's number one. Now let's look outside of guitars. Outside of guitars, a few things are happening. The guitar industry was never a fast-moving industry. It was never, if you were to look at it completely economically, it was never the best use of real estate, right? There could be other things that you could sell. I'm talking economically, I'm talking as a guitarist. There can be other things that you could sell or do with that piece of real estate, which would provide you cash much faster, which would give you a much better return on your investment if you look at that particular piece of real estate as an investment. If you've noticed what has happened with real estate in general over the last 40, 50 years, and I don't want to make this an economics lesson, but the long and short of it is, due to generally interest rates being lower, and due to many private companies getting in on the act of investing in houses and commercial spaces versus just using them for what they are meant for, housing and commercial real estate has become much more of an investment category versus just providing its utility as a house or as an office space or as a shop space. Consequently, the performance demands on real estate keep increasing. So inevitably, what will happen is that when it comes to houses, when it comes to a piece of real estate, the market will tend to find the most efficient use. And the market is not one person, it's everybody combined, will tend to find the most efficient use of that piece of real estate. It could be housing, it could be data centers, as is happening because of all the demand for all the data being used by all the new technologies. It could be some commercial real estate, office space, but that too is office space is also suffering. So in a world where the demand for real estate to perform is so high, where does the guitar store, which occasionally sells an expensive product and most of its daily thoroughfare is like strings or picks, small items, it is not going to be that competitive. It is not going to be that economically efficient to use a real piece of real estate for a guitar store. It just isn't, especially since most of what a guitar store does can be done via an online platform. Now, there is a way around this, and this is what I saw in Singapore, which is where there is a beautiful guitar store. You can check out my video. I think I linked it before as well. But the real day-to-day, commerce of that store, how it makes money on a daily basis, isn't selling that few picks or the few strings or the occasional guitar. That place is also a cafe. It sells coffee, the Starbucks model. That place is also a vinyl listening cafe. So you can go there, you have all these beautiful LPs. You go listen to them. So I was very encouraged. I mentioned it in my previous video that you could see a lot of youngsters going there. You can listen to anything on your phone, but there is a charm, there's an experience to getting the LP, putting it in the LP player, putting on the headphones. There's a charm to it. People are paying money for it, even though they can just listen to it on Spotify for nothing. And this is the point, that the future for a physical space has to be much more about the experience than just the transaction of buying and selling a product. A transaction of buying and selling a product now, due to all technology we have, due to the nature of the internet, that can just be done without a real physical space. But an experience like physically putting in an LP, or maybe going and getting a coffee and trying out a guitar, or whatever else it might be, that cannot be replicated on the internet. So my conclusion is that what will happen is eventually the guitar stores, the real hardcore, pure only guitar store, will not exist. It may become a hybridized thing where you can go and experience a guitar and maybe do something like the Sweely model that we see in Singapore. Or it may become something which is primarily online, but they may have a few flagship locations that exist. And you can see a little bit of how Gibson is trying to transition to this. I don't know if you've noticed this, but Gibson, and I didn't mention it here on purpose because that's a whole different video. But basically what Gibson is doing is it's doing all its own marketing. It sells direct and it has its experience centers. Eventually they will not need the dealer. That's kind of where they're going. But I'll make a separate video on this topic. So if you are a guitar shop owner watching this, you probably know much more about the guitar business than I do. But I do think that you would do well to look at the broader trends affecting retail, affecting consumer behavior, and hedge your bets by incorporating a little bit more of an experiential thing, whether it's opening a coffee shop. Coffee is just an example, but it's kind of strange, right, about the money that people spend on coffee these days. So you need to build in a little bit of a hedge so that guitars can be part of the business, but it needs to be a more holistic concept. And I really hope that guitar retailers who are under threat find some way to bridge this, because it'll be a sad day when you can't just walk into a store and try a guitar. I hope that day doesn't come. All right, I hope this was helpful. I would love to hear your thoughts as well. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Take care.